I'd like to tell you about a game that I found when I was 13. The name of the game is Final Fantasy X. Now, the series of Final Fantasy does not properly follow the same storyline as you would see in most games. I encountered this game shortly after my grandfather died. It was a very rough time for me, but in the end, this game helped me get through that emotional time. This game was centered around one person and then split into several people. The first person you meet is Tidus, which is our main character of the story. He's angry against towards his father. He doesn't like him at all. But he's driven by that passion so much that he eventually goes to look for him so that he can speak his mind to him. Now, shortly after we meet Tidus, a creature named Sin attacks, which in the end carries another character with Tidus named Auron to a place called Spira, which is centered around an effect called the Spiral of Death, which is really what hit me in the end because isn't that what we are centered around? The only thing that's really guaranteed in life is death. In the end, we all have to die. Now, the reason that this game hit me so much is because I am a lot like the main character Tidus. I hold grudge issues against my father. I hold issues against my mother. But that's because of other reasons that we won't get into. Now, this game helped me a lot, mainly because of that same fact that Tidus was a lot like me in those instances. Now, after Tidus and Auron get carried to Spira through what seems to be like a death causing instance, he winds up meeting a girl who's in Al Bhed named Riku, which is in a sense a lot like what happened with me. A lot of my friends weren't there for me, but some of the people that weren't my friends noticed that I was troubled at school, and they were willing to help, which is a lot like a lot of the characters in this game do. Now, throughout the story, they have to go on a. Tidus ends up going to a place called Besaid, which he meets a bunch of our characters there. He meets Waka, Lulu, Yuna, and Kimari. Now, Yuna is the second main character of the story. She is trying to take after her father and become a heist summoner, which in order to do, you have to go to each temple around Spira and get the summonings. Now, for me, in real life, it was more or less going to see my grandfather's grave. But what I want to get across is there are games that will give you an emotional effect and they will hook you on that. Games will hook you because you're like the main character of the game or you have similarities. Which also brings us to the fact that why this game is my favorite game. It pulls me in so much that it gives me an emotional tie to it. Not just a sorrow tie, but a yearning for adventure. Which is also why I'm going into the degree I'm going into. I'm going into game design because I want to be able to design games like this that will connect people. Not so much emotionally, but to each other. Um, the other reason is because games have become so easy today that I want to make games that will bring people back to yearn to play games again. So many people out there are going from game to game to game daily because games have gotten so easy. Which is also where Final Fantasy comes in. It's not an easy game. Some areas it is, but when you get to others, they challenge you. They cause you to leap over hurdles, just like life does. Which is what I think games should do. Games should make you challenge yourself, set goals, leap over hurdles, teach you about stuff that you can use in real life. Now, this game, Final Fantasy X, ends up ending in a tragic way, which is where I really felt it the most. In the end of the game, Tidus is actually found out to be dead. He's a walking spirit who actually did not turn into a monster like most people would if you're not sent to the far plane, which is where all summoners send departed souls to after they're dead. Which is a lot like sending people by prayer to the afterlife. Now, once Tidus is found to be dead, he eventually has to go to the far plane, which leaves all of our other characters upset because throughout their adventure they got so close that it made it very hard for them to part ways. It made a very strong emotional connection to me because I was very close to my grandfather, closer than any other family member, which it was very hard to depart ways. But it also shows you the fact that you can move on from it. It shows you that death isn't the end, which inspires me to keep moving forward, to live on with the promises that we made. Now, Square Enix has made a lot of Final Fantasy games for the series. But they, like I said before, they do not follow the same storyline. Each one has a story of its own to tell. I feel connected to each and every one of those series because each one has a character that connects to me. But back to Final Fantasy X, it's a game that will cause you to be emotionally interactive. It will force you to think on your feet, which is what games should do today. They shouldn't just be about having fun. They should challenge your mind